Visit a Spectrum store today.
Even the mighty might not see it coming. It's prediabetes, and it captures 1 in 3 adults. But you can escape. Take the 1-minute prediabetes risk test to know where you stand and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. Be your own hero on smartphones everywhere at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Spectrum News Plus. Local stories, connecting communities. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app and free with your Spectrum subscription.
I'm Sharon Tazwell. Here's your Spectrum News in 90. The Atlantic published more messages from a Signal group chat with top U.S. officials that mistakenly added a journalist. The messages reveal new information about strikes on Houthi targets in Yemen. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth continues to deny that war plans were sent. Democratic leadership continues to call for Hegseth to be fired.
There's no units, no locations, no routes, no flight paths, no sources, no methods, no classified information.
The president Wednesday announced a 25% tariff on all cars not made in the United States. Trump made the announcement from the Oval Office saying the tariffs will go into effect April 2nd. Meanwhile, a federal appeals court has maintained a temporary block on President Trump's ability to use the Alien Enemies Act to deport alleged members of a Venezuelan gang. The block will remain in effect while legal challenges play out. The ruling centers around an order from Judge James Boasberg, who ordered 2 deportation flights to turn around. However, the flights continued to El Salvador. And new evacuations underway in the mountains of North and South Carolina as wildfires continue to spread. And the weather continues to impact containment. Dry conditions and high winds are forecast into the weekend, creating more problems for firefighters. And that's your Spectrum News in 90.
I'm meteorologist Brittany Hamilton. We're starting off with the big picture. We do have red flag warnings that extend from the mid-Atlantic through parts of the southeast. Some rain moving through Texas that's going to cause the chance for some flooding, and a low moving into the Pacific Northwest that could potentially give some severe weather as we continue through the overnight hours. Now, the storm and flood threat going to be ongoing for Texas until the end of the week.
New fallout after a journalist was mistakenly added to a Signal text chat where top officials spoke about attack plans in Yemen. The Atlantic publishing more messages Wednesday from the conversation, while the Trump administration continues to deny classified information was shared. Thanks for joining us. I'm Sharon Tazwell. Top intelligence officials were again grilled on Capitol Hill over the incident as Democrats ramp up attacks over the leak, including a ranking House member who says the Signal chat put the lives of U.S. troops at risk. Our national political reporter Taylor Populares has the latest from the White House.
The Atlantic magazine Wednesday released the full chain of messages at the center of its bombshell report that top national security officials texted details of a planned military attack and that the Atlantic's editor, Jeffrey Goldberg, had been accidentally included in it. The magazine made the chain public after President Donald Trump and his national security team insisted the thread contained no classified information. The full transcript shows Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth texted about the timing, the weapons, and other precise details of an imminent attack on Houthi rebels in Yemen.
And there were certainly no war plans discussed.
The administration on Wednesday said the chat showed the details were not specific enough to be considered classified, and the White House denied they constituted war plans. The words the Atlantic first used Tuesday in revealing the chat, that it had taken place on the Signal app and that Goldberg had been mistakenly added to it. Democrats said the information was classified under Pentagon rules and was specific enough to put U.S. service personnel at risk had an enemy country intercepted the chat. Several Democrats at an Intelligence Committee hearing demanded Hegseth's dismissal.
He needs to resign immediately, and a full investigation needs to be undertaken with regard to whether other similar Signal chats are occurring.
No acceptance of responsibility. Excuse after excuse after excuse.
CIA Dr. John Ratcliffe, one of the officials on the chat, testified at the hearing and again pushed back.
My answers haven't changed. I used an appropriate channel to communicate sensitive information. It was permissible to do so. I didn't transfer any classified information.
The administration still could offer no explanation for why Goldberg was added to the chat by National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. Hegseth again defended the chat Wednesday, but ignored questions about the security risks of doing so on the app.
General updates in real time, keep everybody informed. That's what I did. That's my job.
Taylor, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt criticized the journalist involved, Jeffrey Goldberg, in a briefing. Now, you were there. What did she have to say about the Atlantic reporter, and what do we know about the administration's use of the messaging app Signal?
Well, the press secretary had a lot of criticisms of Jeffrey Goldberg, at one time calling him an anti-Trump hater, even bringing up his wife at one point to talk about what political party she's registered with. What's interesting, though, is it's worth reminding people that Jeffrey Goldberg did not pursue this story. He was accidentally added into this chat and then tried to seek clarity on what was going on. He didn't even release the full chat when he published his initial piece earlier this week. In terms of whether the administration is continuing to use Signal, it's unclear right now. They've said there's an internal investigation taking place to figure out how this mishap happened, but they're also repeating that Signal is an encrypted app that has been trusted both in government, in media, and in other professions to be used. President Trump kind of jokingly said yesterday, maybe we won't use it for a while, but it's also kind of a technology that the White House has been reliant on across both parties, so we'll kind of have to see moving forward.
Okay, Taylor Poplar is at the White House. Thanks. In Washington, a major Supreme Court ruling clears the way for greater regulation of untraceable firearms known as ghost guns. Justices Thursday voted to uphold a Biden-era rule mandating the ghost guns face the same regulations of other firearms. Our national reporter Evan Kozloff has more from the Supreme Court.
The ruling is a rare win at the Supreme Court for supporters of greater gun regulations. These firearms, shipped in pieces and assembled at home, typically lack serial numbers, making them hard to trace, and they're often sold without a background check.
This is the gun.
That all changed in 2022 when then President Joe Biden announced a new rule to treat ghost guns like all other firearms, meaning they had to include a serial number and buyers were subject to background checks.
Law enforcement is sounding the alarm. Our communities are paying the price.
But soon after, gun rights groups filed suit, and on Wednesday, the Supreme Court weighed in. Conservative Justice Neil Gorsuch penned the majority opinion in the 7-2 ruling, upholding the Biden-era rule, writing, quote, "Some home hobbyists enjoy assembling them, but criminals also find them attractive."
The rate of growth was really troubling.
Daniel Webster from the Center for Gun Violence Solutions at Johns Hopkins University says these ghost guns have surged in popularity over the last decade. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives reporting over 92,000 were recovered by authorities from 2017 to 2023, and that the number tied to crimes had surged by 1,600% over that time period, including nearly 1,700 tied to homicides.
They've completely bypassed the whole regulatory system designed to keep guns from people that lawmakers have agreed are too dangerous to have them.
Gun rights groups have criticized the decision. The Firearms Policy Coalition called this, quote, "only one battle in a multi-generational war over the scope of government and the pre-existing right to keep and bear arms." But groups advocating for greater restrictions on guns celebrated this move. The nonprofit Brady United writing, quote, "Common sense finally prevailed." Now, President Donald Trump has ordered a review of this rule, which could lead to the regulation being reversed. The NRA is pushing the Trump administration to do just that. Reporting here at the Supreme Court, I'm Evan Kozloff, Spectrum News.
President Trump announced Wednesday he'll impose a 25% tariff on all vehicles not made in the U.S. Trump signed the order from the Oval Office saying the tariffs will go into effect April 2nd. It's the same day the president is expected to impose broad reciprocal tariffs with trading partners.
This will continue to spur growth like you haven't seen. Before I was elected, we were losing all of our plants. They were being built in Mexico and Canada and other places. Now those plants largely have stopped and they're moving them to our country.
The president says most of the big three auto companies in the U.S. intend to move their parts-making division back to the U.S. Economists warn the tariffs could increase car prices across the country. Bracing for the worst, millions of Americans are under red flag warnings. Some tips on keeping your home safe from spreading fires. Coming up on Spectrum News.
We said we'd never break the 3-second rule. Never do that. And never become a minivan mom.
Hey, Chris.
As parents, we say never a lot, but never happens. So when you say you'd never leave your child in a hot car, know it can happen. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock.
I really am in the middle of nowhere. Every day is different. Chores, come on, homeschooling, and then I fit in the rug business. I just got a new batch of rugs that I'd love to show you. I have a website, and a lot of what I do is sharing my home life. Mommy's leaving. Reliable, high-speed internet is the foundation of our business. Spectrum was great. They went out of their way to make sure that I was okay and I was taken care of. Shoo! And that's the awesomeness of having Spectrum.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. Two milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable. The sad reality is, fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kitchen now.
You're not gonna get it all right. Make sure you nail the big stuff.
Mama!
Like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
Thanks for joining us for your Weather on the Ones. I'm meteorologist Brittany Hamilton. On satellite and radar across parts of the Northeast, you have some snow moving in off the Great Lakes, some heavy rainfall already setting up in southern Texas. This is where we're going to be keeping an eye on for flooding potential. And then also in parts of the Pacific Northwest, the chance for strong and even severe storms as we continue through tonight and going into Thursday, a 2 on a scale of 1 to 5 for areas like Seattle and Portland. Typically don't see this, especially not during this time of the year. But as we time this out going through the evening and into early Thursday morning after midnight, you can see some of those showers and storms. Some of those that may develop could be stronger with gusty winds, and that's going to be the main thing we're looking out for here. Can't rule out an isolated spin up, so we'll keep an eye on that. And then as we go through the day on Thursday, more rain coming in, even for parts of Northern California. A lot of moisture with that low that's moving in off the coast. Looking at the entire country, a little cooler for San Francisco and Los Angeles. Temperatures in the 60s there for the afternoon. Still hot in Phoenix, 92. That rain in Seattle, 57. Also 57 in Chicago with some rain. But most other spots seeing temperatures in the upper 70s, low 80s across the southeast. Still on the cooler side in Raleigh with a high of 67, but temperatures do warm up by Friday. You notice that warmer air starts to shift a little bit to the east. We will continue to see that warming trend going into the weekend. Now looking at the excessive rainfall outlook for southern Texas, a 3, a moderate risk on a scale of 1 to 4. So this means that there will likely be some flooding concerns, some flooding going on as we go through tonight and into Thursday. And that level 3 risk still includes Corpus Christi as we go through Thursday as well. So in terms of rainfall, it doesn't take a lot to flood, but this is going to be a long-lived event where we could likely see rain through Saturday, and some spots could see well over 6 inches of rain.
Joining us, here's what you need to know. The Atlantic published all messages its reporter received from the chat involving top security officials and an attack plan for Yemen. Trump officials continue to claim nothing was classified. A federal appeals court has maintained a temporary block on President Trump's ability to use the Alien Enemies Act to deport alleged members of a Venezuelan gang. The Trump administration is expected to appeal the ruling to the Supreme Court. And President Trump imposing a new 25% tariff on all cars that are not made in the U.S. They'll go in effect April 2nd. That's what you need to know. Severe weather conditions from coast to coast Wednesday with increasing wildfire danger, record high temperatures, excessive rainfall and flood alerts, and in the mountains of western North Carolina where many are still rebuilding from Helene. The threat of fire brings a new wave of uncertainty. Spectrum's Ariel Wessler reports.
More people asked to leave their homes in the mountains of North and South Carolina as wildfires spread.
I'm hoping that it doesn't jump and we get it over there and burns up our property.
Residents are keeping a watchful eye on the wind and a number of wildfires currently under assault by local fire crews. More than 8 million people are under red flag warnings from Georgia north into the D.C. area until Sunday. Bill Spearman is the senior pastor at a church in Marietta, South Carolina, now serving as a shelter for evacuees.
Some of them are our church family. Some of them are local church families. And I'm not as much worried about their safety as just their homes.
With wind speeds approaching 15 miles an hour and stronger gusts possible, officials gave this warning to residents in the affected areas.
Begin removing any debris litter, any leaf litter, cleaning out your gutters, taking all your firewood away from your home, just creating a good defensible space.
For some, creating that defensible space simply isn't possible. Much of the Carolinas is still in the early stages of rebuilding after last year's Hurricane Helene. Matthew Rogers hadn't been to his Flat Rock home since Helene wiped out an access bridge months ago. That bridge reopened just days ago, but
I said, that's our house. There's our lake.
He watched on social media as flames from the wildfires completely consumed his cabin before he could return.
Our fireman friend, Phil, called me and said, hey, buddy, I'm sorry.
From fires to flood watches in the Gulf region, most of southern Texas is under alerts, and an unusually early heat wave continues to set records out west. Authorities say the fires in South Carolina have been caused by humans. Local fire chiefs all the way to South Carolina's governor are urging people to follow burn bans in both states and stop setting campfires or burning garbage. Ariel Wessler, Spectrum News.
4 American soldiers who went missing from a training area in Lithuania have died. The embassy says the soldiers were conducting scheduled tactical training near Lithuania's border with Belarus when they were reportedly involved in an accident. No further details are known at this time. Wednesday marks 1 year since the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapsed in Baltimore after a cargo ship struck the structure. 6 construction workers who were filling potholes on the bridge at the time died. State and local leaders honored the workers with a ceremony. Construction on a new bridge is expected to begin in the fall. That could cost up to $1.7 billion. It's expected to take about 3 years to be completed. It's time to play ball. We preview Major League Baseball's opening day just ahead on Spectrum News.
For the millions of school-aged children across the country, the state of their schools can have a lasting impact on their health and well-being.
The majority of school districts aren't doing comprehensive regular water quality testing.
As CO2 levels rise in a space, cognitive function takes a direct decline.
We visit 2 school districts working to create safe and healthy environments for their students.
Watch Exploring Your Health, Curing Our Classrooms, available on the Spectrum News app.
Starting a business is hard. You have to stay connected at all times.
As we've been growing the studio, Spectrum's been there every step of the way. I'm always able to make the phone call that I need. I'm able to shoot that text message or that email. Every vital piece of equipment that we have here uses Spectrum.
Fast, reliable internet starting at $40 a month, backed by the Spectrum commitment to keep your business connected.
I tell my son, I love you every single day. I love you. Now, my dad has never said that to me. Not because he doesn't love me, but because culturally it wasn't comfortable for him. Now that he's a grandfather, he says, I love you to my son every time he sees him. My advice to all the fathers out there, forget the cultural restrictions. They grow up way too fast for you to waste even a single precious moment.
Food isn't just fuel to live, it's fuel to grow. My family relied on public assistance to help provide meals for us. These meals fueled my involvement in theater and the arts as a child, which fostered my love for acting. The Feeding America network of food banks helps millions of people put food on the table. When people are fed, futures are nourished. Join the movement to end hunger, and together we can open endless possibilities for people to thrive. Visit feedingamerica.org/actnow.
Welcome back. I'm meteorologist Brittany Hamilton. We're starting off with our red flag warnings, and this means that we have very dry conditions and still breezy conditions, unfortunately, for the Carolinas and northern Georgia, where we've been dealing with some wildfires. So hopefully, once the winds kind of quiet down, this warning does go through this evening, we could see some containment happening. But right now, the winds and the dry conditions sort of fighting against that. As we look at satellite and radar, the bigger picture here, no rain in sight for those areas, but we could see some rain in some of those spots by the weekend. Still looking at some snow across parts of Pennsylvania and New York, and some very heavy rain down in Texas. On top of the flooding risk that we talked about earlier, we also have the risk for a few strong and even severe storms for Thursday, including some of those same areas. So Corpus Christi, as well as San Antonio, potentially getting in on some strong and severe storms. Also a risk that extends from areas like Kansas City into St. Louis, a 2 on a scale of 1 to 5 for the areas that border with Nebraska as well as Missouri. So going to be keeping an eye on that area through Thursday. Now looking at our futurecast for the entire country going through the end of the week, by Friday you have the chance for maybe a little bit of wintry precip in parts of the upper Midwest, some rain moving through the Midwest, and then still very active in parts of Texas. The West Coast, that's where that low is coming in, bringing in all that moisture, so the severe risk for tonight. Also a chance for rain on Thursday and even into Friday. But as we get into Saturday, we're going to be watching for this setup. Now, the low pressure system that we're watching does look like it's going to be strong enough where there could be some severe weather for Saturday, Sunday, and even Monday. And this would be the system here. As it continues to move through to the east, I would say parts of the Tennessee Valley, the Midwest, likely to see rain and storms on Sunday. Some of those could be severe. And then by the time we get into Monday, all of that moves through the East Coast. And that's where we could be looking at it. But it's still a little far out. We will keep you guys up to date on that. Looking at our temperatures for Saturday, as well as conditions, some rain and snow in Billings, 39 degrees there, 61 in Denver. Also some snow showing up. But this is where you're starting to see those storms. Areas like Memphis and New Orleans, as well as Chicago. Going into Sunday, that area starts to slide off to the east.
The first trailer for Alec Baldwin's Rust has been released following a fatal shooting on set. Baldwin plays the lead role as an outlaw who comes out of hiding to help his grandson. A prop gun Baldwin was holding went off, killing the cinematographer and injuring the director in October of 2021. Baldwin was indicted on an involuntary manslaughter charge, but the case was dismissed over allegations prosecutors withheld evidence. The film's armorer was convicted and sentenced to 18 months in prison. The movie comes out May 2nd. Baseball is back, and part Ballparks across the country will soon be flooded with fans as opening day gets underway. And here with a preview of what we can expect is Spectrum News anchor Marilee Melendez. Hi, Marilee.
Hey, Sharon, you know it is officially spring when you're at a baseball park with a hot dog and maybe some Cracker Jacks. Opening day is Thursday, where 26 Major League Baseball teams will start their seasons. There are 30 teams in the league, but the Cubs and Dodgers began their season in Japan last week, with the Dodgers sweeping the 2-game series. And the Rockies-Rays matchup was moved to Friday in Tampa to give the Rays an extra day to prepare their temporary home, which is now Steinbrenner Field. The Rays will play their home games at the Yankees spring training facility after Hurricane Milton tore the roof off of Tropicana Field. While every team has a fresh plate, so to speak, the reigning World Series champion Dodgers are the heavy favorites to repeat, Sharon.
All right, so Marilee, we know about the Dodgers. How about some of the other teams that could give them a run for their money this season?
Their biggest competition is probably in the National League, the top teams being the Atlanta Braves, Philadelphia Phillies, New York Mets, and San Diego Padres. And looking at the NL Central, the Milwaukee Brewers have been dominant in the division, but the Chicago Cubs will try and make a run after acquiring all-star outfielder Kyle Tucker this winter.
Okay, and what about the fans who are heading out to the park? What can they expect?
Oh, it's not just the first pitch that fans are looking forward to. The pageantry will be on full display. So get this, the Boston Red Sox have some serenading on opening day with the playing of Sweet Caroline. The St. Louis Cardinals allow horses on the field, Clydesdales to be exact. But the Cincinnati Reds may take the cake. The city completely shuts down and puts on an entire parade at the iconic Finley Market. It goes back to the 1800s, and in the early days, we're talking 1920s, even the visiting team would participate. Clearly, that doesn't happen anymore. But it is safe to say people in Cincinnati and across the country are excited for this unofficial spring holiday, Sharon.
Oh, it is exciting. All right, so real quick, Marilee, what is your go-to food when you're at the ballpark? I have to ask.
Go with Big Hot Pretzel. I feel like that's a little more off the beaten path. Yeah, with the salt, some mustard, I'd take that any day. How about you?
That's a good one. Nachos and cheese for me. So I think it's a good combination. We'll get both.
Can't go wrong.
All right, Marilee Melendez.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much. And Thursday, Spectrum's Chris Welch will have an inside look at some of the new foods coming to ballparks. Speaking of food across the country, the team's hope will be a home run. The NFL Competition Committee released several potential rule changes Wednesday. It's recommending making the dynamic kickoff rule permanent and moving touchbacks to the 35-yard line in hopes of shorter kicks that lead to even more returns. The committee also recommended an expansion of instant replay that will be considered next week at the league's meeting. Officials say any rule change must be approved by 24 out of 32 NFL team owners. All right, listen up, Office fans. Chili's is opening a new restaurant in Scranton, Pennsylvania that pays tribute to the hit TV show. Well, the restaurant will feature decor from iconic Office moments and the awesome blossom and onion dish previously discontinued by the chain that will be available at this location only. Well, several Office actors will also star in the ads for the Scranton location. You can check it out starting April 7th, 20 years after the iconic Dundies episode aired.
Any occasion.
I'm Sharon Townswell. Thanks for watching. Your Spectrum News in 90 is coming up right after the short break. Stay with us.
Friday nights, The Big Deal with Errol Lewis, where Spectrum News' local political journalists break down the most important issues shaping our nation.
Our journey towards improving mental health doesn't always present a clear path. Every Thursday on Your Mental Health, we listen to voices across our communities, discussing the challenges of everyday life and presenting accessible resources to guide us along the path to our well-being, providing hope and empowering choices that light the way to a healthier you.
Your Mental Health with Dr. Nicole Clark, Thursdays on Spectrum News Plus, available on all your favorite devices.
It's game time at the arena, and 20,000 fans are looking for a win. With an ultra-high-speed network and seamless Wi-Fi, fans can get in the door fast and share the game's best moments in real time. And with Spectrum Business committed to keeping them connected 100% of the time, they won't miss a second of the action. A secure, reliable connection from Spectrum Business means the fan experience is a guaranteed win.
Whether it's our stories, the warmth of our laugh, or our family's secret sauce, we all bring something different to the table. So make some space. The power of connection is waiting right outside your comfort zone. Learn how you can help strengthen your community at belongingbeginswithus.org/teamup.
Weather can be beautiful, inconvenient, and at times powerful. And it affects everything we do. At Spectrum News Plus, our weather experts update you with the information and the context you need so you can better plan your day. And we do it every 10 minutes. We're the calm in the storm. Weather on the Ones on Spectrum News Plus, exclusively on Spectrum. And get your weather anytime on Spectrum News app. Spectrum News Plus, local stories, connecting communities. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app and free with your Spectrum subscription.